Hello, I'm Dan Heber, admin of Pedagogical Memes on Philosophical Themes. I'm also a philosophy professor, and I've taught classes at the college and university level since 1999. This video is part of a series in which I talk about some philosophical ideas as presented in popular culture. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, thanks for watching. In a previous video, I had analyzed a scene from The Devil Wears Prada, and I had used that scene to talk about the philosophical concept of determinism, specifically Baron de Holbach's version of determinism. So what I thought I would do today was to go over a clip from the movie No Country for Old Men and talk about how it can be used to present William James's account of free will, sort of, in contrast to the determinism that we talked about previously, or that I talked about previously. And the essay that I'm going to be making reference to is William James's famous essay, The Dilemma of Determinism. And basically what James presents, or the dilemma that he presents to us in that essay, is that if determinism is true, then we're not free. But if determinism is false, then we're not responsible. And so James wants to reject both of those things. He wants to, deny determinism, and he also wants to deny at least a version of indeterminism, the version of indeterminism that just says everything is random. James does allow for chance, but chance doesn't reduce to randomness, because again, if all we have is randomness, if our actions, are random, then we certainly don't get any kind of moral responsibility, from that. And just as we don't have free will if our actions are just the result of these causal forces that are dictating our lives. So what James does is to attempt to resolve that dilemma by arguing that indeterminism doesn't mean randomness. Instead, it just means that some events are not predetermined. They could have been otherwise. There are options for what we can do. So with this openness, the human will can intervene, not randomly, but deliberately. And this is where freedom and responsibility can coexist. And as I've already mentioned, we're going to be using a scene from No Country for Old Men to make this point, to make James's point, coming from one of the characters, Carla Jean. And this is actually the second coin flip scene in the film, and I'm not going to get into an analysis of the film or an interpretation of the film, rather in terms of the role that chance plays in both the film and the book No Country for Old Men. My purposes are different. I'm just going to be using this scene to talk about William James and his account of free will. So with that setup out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the clip itself.
You don't have to do this.
People always say the same thing.
What do they say?
They say, you don't have to do this.
You don't.
Okay. This is the best I can do. Call it.
I knowed you was crazy when I saw you sitting there. I knowed exactly what was in store for me.
Call it.
No. I ain't gonna call it.
Call it.
The coin don't have no say. It's just you.
Well, I got here the same way the coin did.
Now, I should say here that this scene plays out slightly differently in the book than it does in the movie. So I'm not going to be talking about the way it plays out in the book. I would encourage that I would encourage you rather to read that on your own if you haven't already done so. But restricting the analysis to the analysis of that scene as it's presented in the movie, we can understand Carla Jean's words, "the coin don't got no say," as making James's point. So you have the character Anton Sugar. This is, best I can do, coin flip, puts it down. And sort of, acting as if, pretending as if that it's going to be chance that decides. Now, notice that the outcome of the coin flip, from the standpoint of pure determinism, is going to have a determined outcome, based on force and angle and resistance and the friction of your thumb and air currents that are in the room, etc. If we really accept a strict determinist position, some Laplacian worldview, then we just understand chance as a placeholder for human ignorance, right? There's the idea that, well, if we understood all of the variables involved in weather, then we could predict exactly when and where a tornado is going to occur. We're not there yet. So it's an epistemological sense of chance is what the determinist is adopting there. And of course, Carla Jean isn't having any truck with that. And of course, we're using Carla Jean here as a representative of what we could interpret as James's view. Whenever she says the coin don't got no say, Anton Chigurh, his response is, well, I got here the same way the coin did, meaning that the same deterministic factors that led to the coin being there are the same deterministic factors that led to him being there. Of course, Carla Jean, the point that she's making is that, well, maybe deterministic factors determined maybe those causal forces determined the coin and what the coin's behavior and what it did and where it is. But what James is going to say, and Carla Jean, is the voice of James in this analysis, is that it's different for Anton Chigurh, because regardless of whether the coin flip turns out to be heads or tails, Chigurh still has the option of doing the action that is associated with heads or doing a different action entirely. So that's the room, as it were, for free will. For James, chance isn't just shorthand for ignorance. It's a real feature of the universe. It's ontological in nature. It's not epistemological in nature. It represents the presence of multiple possible futures. The coin could be heads, the coin could be tails, but either way, you have to decide what to do. The outcome of the coin toss does not determine whether you agree to go along with it. That is separate. It's chance that leads to choice. Chance, or what we're describing here as chance within this deterministic framework, chance is what determines the outcome of the coin toss, but you still have to be the one to go along with that. And again, I would encourage you to read the book and how this scene plays out, in the book, because it does differ from the movie in some interesting and important ways. But with all those things being said, I think I talked about what I needed to talk about for the purpose of this brief movie analysis. So I'll thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.